Today we are talking about boundaries, the importance of boundaries. Say hi as you come on. Let me know you're there as you come on. You know that I'm super punctual, but then we just drink some tea, and I'm going to be doing some movement because my body needs it this morning. So join in if you like, grab yourself some tea. If you like, I am doing some hip circles. Didn't get a chance to do all of my Queen Rising this morning, so I'm going to do it whilst we wait for our friends to attend today. Say hi as you come on this morning. Really important topic today about boundaries and why they're so essential to your emerging queen. Say hi as you come on. You know that the reason why I do this live is because we get a sense of rotation, of feedback. Otherwise I could just make you videos, okay? So this is an interactive session, and I'm going to be asking for you to feedback and to contribute today. Good morning. So I'm going to get started in about a minute, so get yourself some tea if you haven't already. And as I said, I'm just doing a little bit of stretching, a little bit of movement as we're getting started today, because I need to move my body a little bit. Oi. Really important topic around boundaries. Nyla, good morning, dear. Looking forward to today's talk. Yes. Yes. Important, fundamental, foundational work on the feminine is that of boundaries. Remember, a lot of the stuff I'm doing here in the broadcasts is additional to what's in the Powerfully Feminine Intensive, okay? Or it's an extension of the 5 core feminine arts, okay? Say hello if you're there. Okay. All right, so as we're waiting for a few more people, what I'm going to suggest we do is we do a little bit of a meditation. Let's go inside. So let's sink in together, so that you can feel yourself in your body right here and right now, okay? So you don't have to share your reveals, but we're going to start by that feeling of noticing sensations. This is the first stage of the reveal method. I'm going to do a whole session on this when I get back from meditating. Noticing sensations. That can be tingling, tightness, heat, movements of energy, pain even, sense of opening, sense of density or dark patches of energy, light. So let's do this stage of noticing. Noticing sensations in your body, in your energy. Noticing and then naming it. So for me right now, feeling a little bit of fluid, warm movements of energy at the front of my pussy. I'm feeling a lot of intensity and light in my heart center. I'm noticing a little bit of tightness at the back of my hips. So just to yourself, speaking out what you're noticing. And the reason why I'm teaching you this, to do this at the beginning of any reveal or experience or commentary that you are doing on the page, because it helps you to actually connect to the experience more. It helps us to connect to you. And when you allow us in through being vulnerable and real, this is where the transformation can occur. As I said, I'm going to do a whole session on this in about 3 weeks. And then the next stage of the reveal is feeling emotion. So underneath the sensation level may be emotion. Okay? For me, I am feeling this gentle, light sense of joy inside. Don't make it complex, don't make it intellectual. Remember, almost everything I'm teaching you about is about what's happening from the neck down. Embodiment is about what's happening from the neck down. Your true feminine is about what's happening from the neck down. Your queen is about what's happening from the neck down. And voicing out to yourself the feeling at the moment. Feelings are simple. They're happy, sad, joy, angry, frustrated. And in the category of feeling, we also have turn on. And so I'm also feeling just a little engagement of heat, warmth, and turn on in my pussy and in my belly right now. And then we breathe. Let's start to breathe. Those nice long breaths where we breathe in through to the top of the head, and we breathe out all the way down the body, all the way down through the belly and the pussy to the very, very base of your body. What I call the full long breath. So let's do a nice long breath again. In. And long breath out. A long breath in. Long breath out. Beautiful. I'm going to remind you of the breath a little bit throughout the rest of the practice. But the next thing we're going to do is you're going to put your hands down over your pussy, over the pubic mound. I've got both hands nestled in the fold in my legs because I'm sitting cross-legged at the moment. And you're going to let the warmth of your hands reflect inwards toward your pussy, toward the belly. And let's let that help you be grounded in your throne. Your pussy is your throne. Let it help you feel there more. And work on feminine power is not an intellectual exercise. It is a feeling-based, sensual, embodied route. And all you do right now is feel whatever's there. We're not trying to elicit a feeling or make something happen that's not happening. You're just being real with what you feel right here and right now, without judgment, without feeling like you need to change or alter, or that you're supposed to feel something or another. This is just feeling what's there. It's way simpler than you realize. And breathe. And as we do these practices together, I can feel those who are on live call. And this is why, when you can, turn up live, because I can feel you and I can hold you energetically on the live call because I'm here live. I can feel you live. If you're listening to it as a recording, please do respond, because I can respond to you post haste after we have closed down the live stream. The greatest transformation happens to those that turn up. As they say, 80% of success is just turning up. And you know what? If there's one thing I've learned, it's about turning up when you least feel like turning up. I've had to do that thousands of times. Okay, good. Beautiful. Well, welcome back. Welcome to Who's Here. Hello, Cornelia. Beautiful to those who are live today. So we're doing some important work today. We're talking about boundaries, and this is in response to a question that came from Sahar actually within the group. So I'm responding directly to that, and yet it's an important topic that we all need to know about, okay? Okay. So sometimes I'm checking on the live stream. If you have any comments, please feel free to comment, ask questions anytime during the live stream or in the recording, okay? Any time. If you really need me to make sure that I hear it, make sure you tag me, as in your quote, say, hey, Candice Anita, okay? And then I will know that you have a question directly for me. I try to answer anything that comes through, but sometimes I miss it. If I'm tagged, I definitely won't miss it, okay? Good. So boundaries. Okay. So where do we start here? I've got a lot of notes, so forgive me if I'm reading a little bit today, because it's important that I want to make sure I'm covering off as much of this as I can. So let's start with this core principle here, that the ability to create and withhold and enforce, in fact, even boundaries, is one of the essences or the demarcation lines between the false feminine and the true feminine. You know that you're really emerging in your queen when you know your boundaries, you know where they are, you know what's inside of them, you know what's outside of them. You readily and often speak them without any charge or with impunity. And you see, the false feminine doesn't know what her boundaries are. She also doesn't know what her desires are. She doesn't know what her values are. And hence, how can you assert what you don't know? So remember this core principle in transformation work, which is what we're doing here, which is you can't transform what you don't see and what you don't know. And so why I do all of that work on desire in the Art of Desire module is a process of discovery. Like, what are my desires? What are not my desires? What have been conditioned upon me? What are really mine, right? And you're going to see today that there's an intrinsic relationship between your self-knowledge about desire and that of your boundaries. So what I really want you to understand is that boundaries are good. Boundaries are good. They're good for you. They're good for everybody around you. I think what often happens with women is they perceive, believe, think that boundary creation is going to have a negative influence on other people or those around them. It's the exact opposite. I can promise you that those that have strong boundaries have people that respect them. People respect the person. They respect that person because they've got really strong boundaries, okay? Now, if you've ever been around somebody that doesn't have good boundaries, it doesn't feel good, right? So one thing my spiritual teacher used to say all the time was, watch things in other people first. We can see things that we don't like in others, sometimes better than in ourselves first. And that's okay, because I always immediately reflect it back onto myself. So if I see something that doesn't work when I observe it in somebody else, I'll always go, okay, where is that in myself? Is that something that's triggering something in me that I need to own or presence or awaken? Or is that something that does or doesn't have charge in me anymore? Okay, so it's fine to observe this in other people. So observe how when somebody doesn't have good boundaries, how it creates a lot of flakiness, a lot of drama, a lot of uncertainty. When there's not boundaries, it's easy to cross them, if that makes sense, right? So if somebody doesn't have clear boundaries, then what happens is you can cross them in them, and they're constantly trying to cross your boundaries, okay? And what will happen is if you cross their boundaries, because they don't know them, when you've gone too far, that's when they explode. Because you've crossed an invisible boundary that they haven't asserted, they don't have clarity on, and they don't know how to actually enforce. Now, the same thing, so of course, in yourself, right? If someone crosses your boundary too far, that's when you're going to put your hands up and explode, right? It doesn't need to get to that level, is my point around this boundaries work. So I've got some quotes here that I found today. And one of them is by a woman called Pamela Cummins. And she says, individuals set boundaries to feel safe, respected, and heard. I'll say that again. Individuals set boundaries to feel safe, respected, and heard. Okay, so I just want to check on you and see if you have any questions yet. Please bring the questions in the live stream. I will check them throughout my talk today, okay? This is going to be largely a talk, but I do want you to interact. I'm going to ask some questions soon. Okay. So, okay. So why do you set boundaries? I got another quote here by a woman called Shannon Alder. Staying silent is like a slow growing cancer to the soul. There is nothing intelligent about not standing up for yourself. You may not win every battle, however, everyone will at least know what you stood for. So I've said a few times recently, the false feminine does one of two things essentially. It either collapses in defeat, okay, which is the maid, or it fights against, which is the princess. The true feminine is the realm of the woman that stands up in the light of her spirit. She stands up in her true sense of her light, her heart, herself, and she stands up in the center. She neither collapses in defeat, she neither fights against. She stands up for herself. And when a woman knows how to stand up for herself, she also knows how to stand up for other people, right? Okay. So why do we assert boundaries? Because the false feminine comes across as flaky and ungrounded. They're volatile. Because they don't know their boundaries, sometimes you cross it, sometimes you don't. You're not sure what they do and don't want and what they desire. It tends to be highly volatile and changeable, okay? Now, changeable is the nature of the feminine. Volatile is where somebody hasn't presenced themselves. They're not clear on who they are, they're not clear on what they want, they're not clear on how to actually speak it, and they definitely don't know how to receive. And they often can feel harsh and pushy. So one thing you can know about somebody who doesn't know their own boundaries is they will try to push into yours all of the time. This is why it's important to assert and emphasize your own and to discover what they are. All right, I just want to see if you have any questions come up so far. There's a very quiet, intently listening crowd today, but please ask questions. Please send me hearts or thumbs up as we're moving along. Nyla has a question. Give me a second. Nyla, we can view setting boundaries as a way for standing up for ourselves. Correct. Yes. And how can we ever expect for others to stand up for us, for the masculine in our life to stand for us and what we want, if we don't do that for ourselves, right? Boundary setting works really well in relationships too, because the true masculine really respects a woman that knows what she wants. I can promise you about that. But we'll get onto that in a second. Okay, so my next section is about what are boundaries, why do you need them, and how do you create them? Okay. And I have a quote here from Gerard Manley Hopkins. Your personal boundaries protect the inner core of your identity and your right to choices. So what he's illuminating there is what is essentially what your boundaries are about. Your boundaries are essentially about your clarity about your desires and your values. Okay? So what I want you to do right now is I want you to see, I'm going to answer questions in a second again, Nyla. Thank you for the hearts and the love, it's helpful. All right, so boundaries are essentially, okay, let's start here. One of the things that I assert again and again with you gals is that the core and essential boundary for your queen starts with your own body, okay? the boundaries of your body. What feels good to you, what doesn't feel good to you, what you want to take inside your energy in your body, what you don't want inside your energy in your body, how you treat your body, how you take care of it, the self-care, what you ingest, what foods, how you nourish yourself, the sort of environments you put yourself in or not in. This is the primary sovereign domain of your queen, is your own body. Okay, nobody can tell you what you do and don't like, what you should or shouldn't want or like or do with your own body. This is the primary domain of your boundaries. Okay, now outside of that, or the extension part of that, becomes what I'd call this sort of invisible circle around your energy. Okay, invisible, but highly impenetrable to those, to your boundaries. Okay, so we start with this primary domain, which is our body, our energy, our sexuality, our desires, how we want to be treated, how we don't want to be treated. And it does become asserted through this invisible boundary around you. Okay, and I'm drawing this circle, and I want you to do that right now. Right now, I want you to point your fingers ahead like this, and I want you to draw an invisible circle around your body and energy, all the way to the back. Do it right now with me. Now, what this circle represents is, inside of the circle is your yes, what you do want, what you do desire, and what your values are. Outside of that circle is your no, what you don't want, how you don't want to be treated, your negative desires. Okay, we talk about that a lot in the Art of Desire module. And if you haven't done that yet, don't worry about it. I'm just illustrating a point here at the moment with regard to boundaries. And this is where the work on understanding the desire spectrum, going through the process of desire diving, and then in fact using the desire setting work. But understanding your desire, you need to see as getting clearer and clearer and clearer in time as to your negative desires, which means what I don't want that, I don't like that, I don't want to be treated like that, is your negative desire or your no. Okay, your desire, which is really where the rubber hits the road, is I like, I want, what will make me happy is. Now what I'm modeling for you there is phrases to use when you are requesting your desires, especially with men. Okay, what would make me happy is, and what you're saying is, this is inside of my boundary here, this will make me happy, and if you are willing to provide me the desires, you're going to be brought closer and closer to me and inside my boundaries. All right, so what I want to illustrate here a little bit is some examples of what would be inside my circle, for example. And this is just some examples, and I'd love you to do some journaling on this. So inside my circle, I want to be treated like a queen, loved, adored, and cherished by my man. Another example, inside my circle, people close to me take personal responsibility for their own stuff and their own triggers. We have open, clean communication. Outside my circle, okay, another example, men who are false in their false masculine, who don't know themselves, who can't provide a place of safety and holding for me. Another example of what's outside my circle, people who don't take personal responsibility, people who are in their false feminine and false masculine, those who blame, shame, or who aren't in their body and who aren't grounded. Now what I'm trying to illustrate here is, for me, it's a pretty hard line between those who are allowed close and inside my boundaries. And what I'm illustrating at the moment is, once you become really clear on what you do and don't want, what you do and don't like, okay, it makes it clear to you who comes close or who is held a little bit further and further away in terms of your boundaries, okay? So I've used the example of this circle, and you may have heard the expression, who's in my inner circle? I have about 5 or 6 people in my life who are in my inner circle. There's implicit, complete trust with those people. I can share anything with them. I feel completely safe. I know they have my back. Even if there's conflict, even if there's a miscommunication, right? And they know my boundaries and I know theirs, okay? So we're very respectful of where each other's boundaries are. There's good, clean communication. Everybody owns their triggers. I feel safe, held, loved, and adored with those people inside my inner circle. And then the truth is, outside this boundary circle is a progression of depth, right? Sometimes somebody is invited a little bit closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer over time. Sometimes there's merit in pushing somebody a little bit further out for a period. All right, so on that note, I'm just going to check in with you and see if you have any questions. Oh, Nyla, I may have just answered your question. Nyla asks, how do we deal with people who push our boundaries? It takes a lot of courage to do the boundary work. In fact, it takes courage to step into your queen. We spoke about that a week or so ago. It's one of the C's of stepping into your queen, right? Is courage. Courage to assert that this is how I want to be treated. That doesn't work for me. Okay? All right. So what I want to do right now with you is I want you to share just one thing that's on the inside of your circle, okay? You've got the what do I want inside the circle. What do I desire? Just right now, just share one thing that you desire to experience inside of your boundary. So as we're here together, letting yourself share, I'm going to have some tea, a little tea break whilst I'm waiting for you to share. Or if you're sharing on the live, on the video, I'll come back and respond to you. You could say something like, I will be loved, adored, and cherished by a man. That's a desire, and it's also a boundary. Because what you're effectively saying is, if that is not happening, you're outside of my boundary. Maya says softness. Inside of her boundary is softness. Galadisa, welcome, honey. Hello. We have some people turning up still. What I'm hearing you say, Maya, is I desire to feel softness in my inner circle. Any more shares about what is inside your circle, inside your boundary? Nyla says, I want people inside my boundary to treat me with love, respect, and attention. I like that. Focus, attention, that's beautiful. It's definitely something the masculine does. Masculine is beautiful at presence and attention. Thanks for sharing, Nyla. Beautiful share. Big love heart from Maya. Sheila, hello honey. My desire is to be deeply loved, adored, and respected by a man who allows me to be myself and be a queen. Yes. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, honey. Any more shares about what's in your inner circle? What's inside your boundary? Thank you for the love and the smiles and the kisses. I really appreciate them. Creating a little bit of space now for you to feel into what's inside your circle. Make sure to breathe, okay? Because if you're not breathing, by definition, you're neck up. As we do the nice long breath, we connect downwards. If you're having trouble feeling what's inside, then cup your pussy or hold your heart. Allow the warmth and the presence of your own hands to help you feel the wisdom in your body. Feel the wisdom in your pussy. Pussy brain, remember. Gladisa, hello. Open, safety, tenderness, and compassion. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so in the Art of Desire module, I go fairly extensively into the difference between negative desire and positive desire, right? So negative desire is I don't want, fill in the blank. I don't like, fill in the blank. And that is the realm of your no. Now, an empowered no is really important for the Queen. So let's be really clear on that. And I want to quote something else as we move on here. Is no, saying no is a complete sentence. Let me repeat myself. Saying no is a complete sentence. I'll know somebody is in their false feminine, where if they say no, they feel the need to tell me why. Because I'm just so busy, and because of the kids, and because of the da-da-da, and it's just too much, and da-da-da. No is all I needed to hear. And I will always respect your no. I will always respect your no. And you know a queen because she'll go, fair enough. Thank you for letting me know. So somebody comes to you and asks you to do something, and if you're honest with yourself and you feel in your body and you know that it's really a no, say, no, I'm not able to do that. Not, I'm sorry, no, and not no because. Okay? No, I'm not going to be able to do that. See what I mean? Awesome. Mina, hello honey, having some aha moments. Thank you. Mina says, the challenge for me is to undo and retrain boundary issues. I'll get to that in a second, honey. It's a good one. Nyla, sometimes when someone loves you very much and they know they're overstepping your boundary, but they want you to snap out of a bad habit, how do we deal with that in our Queen? Oh, I'm not really understanding your question. Let me try to tune into what you're saying. Okay, so one thing I want to be clear on there, if I could, Nyla. Boundaries are not about closing. In fact, the stronger, the more you assert your boundaries, the more you know who you are, what you like, what you want, and what you don't like and don't want, you're able to let go. You're able to surrender more. You're able to be more open. Okay? It's because of your boundaries you can be more open, more present, and more receptive. Now, if you have a closing inside you and somebody who knows you very, very well needs to come up and press into the closing and go, hey, Nyla, that thing's kind of a bit closed in you. I'm here and I'm present with you, but I'm pretty sure you want to open that. That's not what boundaries is about. That's a very, very different order of magnitude. We're not talking about opening and closing here. We're talking about assertion of your desires and your values, okay? Mina says, for example, my husband expects me to watch 3 hours of TV with him nightly. I hate watching TV every night. He knows I hate this. I want to go out and do things. But for 9 years, I've gone to bed at 8 p.m. to watch TV. Ooh. This is a good one, Mina. This is really, really big for you. Now, what I would suggest what needs to happen here is you're going to have a conversation separate from that space with him. You're going to have to sit down and speak to him about your needs here. Now, before you have that conversation, a couple of things need to happen. And you know about this, about how to create time with your lover and your honey. But you need to become very clear inside of yourself as to why that doesn't work for you. And I'm going to suggest it's because you lose connection to him when you're sitting and you're both staring at the box. And what you want to happen and you want to experience is more connection. You don't feel connected to him when you're sitting and watching Netflix. It's okay every so often, but every night you are losing connection to him and you're wanting more. Now his masculine, if he's been working all day, probably needs a stage of just not talking and letting down. So maybe he needs to go and watch television for an hour by himself so that he can just not have to speak and let down. The masculine can't speak all the time. The masculine doesn't like to talk all the time. Okay, so your need for connection and intimacy is not being met when you're watching television with him. Okay, so, and I'm hearing that there's a boundary around that every night can't do it. One night a week, maybe that would be okay. Maybe that's something that you could actually accept within your boundaries. But you're saying, look, if you need to do that, then I'm going to need to go and connect to other people, or I need date night, and I need date night to look like this, or I need 2 date nights, and one is we just talk and we connect and we cook together with the kids, right? See what I mean? I hope that's creating some clarity. I just joined a gym and plan on going in the evening after putting the kids to bed. This conversation has happened many times now. It's time for me to change. He says he can't do anything unless, I didn't get the rest of that, unless I'm there. I actually desire more space from him. Well, the weird thing is I'm guessing that actually that might provide something for both of your boundaries. The masculine needs to go into his cave. He has to have some time out, some quiet time. And he's kind of asking you to come into his cave and be quiet with him. But what he actually needs is some quiet time on his own. So maybe that's what needs to be spoken about there. And I am hearing that you do need some space from him. You've got the kids all day, you're running a business, you have needs too around space. I know I do. I'm an extreme introvert. I need a lot of alone time. So again, when you're speaking to the masculine, you have to speak in terms of needs and how this, if he provides this for you, as in if he provides the space from you, that you are going to be happier. Remember, always come back to, it will make me really happy if I go to the gym 3 nights a week. It'll make me really happy if I have at least 1 night a week with my girlfriends. It'll make me happy if I'm not watching television all the time. It actually makes me anxious, okay? Another thing to say to the masculine, by the way, is what will make me trust you more is, fill in the blank. What will make me trust you more is, okay, fill in the blank. All right, so the thing is I can't see the stream before here, and if I go back I will lose the stream here. I know some other people are asking questions. Why not? Somebody said to ask, I don't know if it was Mina, something about if you say something and they say why not. So when I was talking about no is a complete sentence and they go why not, it's just a no for me. I'm just not feeling it. You see, this is one of the, this is a really tricky one for women. Why not is somebody overstepping your boundaries. If somebody respects you, they will never ask why not. Why not is coming from somebody in their false level. I can promise you that now. I can promise you that why not is somebody that is trying to manipulate you and your time and doesn't respect your boundaries. Gladisa says, wow, great revelation for myself. I watch TV to disconnect from my own desires, hurts, and from my husband. And Sheila says, that was me. And I'm not sure which one you're referring to there. I get a little bit of a delay in the stream, honey. Why not is because somebody has come to you with a demand and not a request. People in their false feminine and false masculine bring demands, expectations and obligations, right? Watch for those with your family, girls. Expectations, obligations are something that we often feel in the family space. And these are really important things around your boundaries. If something is an obligation, I know. You see, for me, that is really uncomfortable. Do not push obligations on me. If you have a clean, clear, and present request for me that does not denote the outcome, then please, I welcome it any time. I have unlimited time for your requests. Sometimes for me it'll be, I'm not able to do that right now, but I am going to be able to do that tomorrow at 2 o'clock. That's not a justification. That's me being present with myself. Now, one thing that I notice that often happens with women is their boundaries, they let their boundaries be overstepped all of the time. They say yes when they mean no. And guess what happens immediately when you say yes when you mean no? Your energy drops. You feel drained. You feel heavy. You start collapsing into the false feminine. Sometimes it's a hard no. No and never. Sometimes it's not right now. That's still a no. And if they say, when are you going to be able to? Then you tell them and you work that out with them. Okay. Now, with regard to, Mina's said she had these conversations with her husband a lot. So one of the things, if you need to have important conversations with somebody close to you, especially a man, is you go, hey, I've got something I really want to talk to you about. I'm modeling it right now. Honey, I've got something really important that I want to talk about. Is there a time we could find that we could talk about this? It's going to take about 20 or 30 minutes. Okay, one thing, I've let him know it's important. 2, I've requested a time that we can talk. 3, I've given a boundary around it, a boundary of time. It's very hard for the masculine to go into those conversations and think that it's going to go on for hours and hours. Okay? Honor that time when you sit with him. If it goes over the 30 minutes, say, I know I said this was going to take 30 minutes, but I'm sensing we need about another 15. Is that going to be okay with you? You're respecting his boundaries there, right? Because he's agreed to something. Don't overstep other people's boundaries and expect other people to not overstep yours. Okay? All right. I need to check. We've got a lot of questions coming in. Sheila says, I asked the question about the why not. Right, thank you. Nyla says, my mother-in-law is like that. She keeps insisting even when I say no. She makes me feel bad as she is in her false feminine. Well, nobody can make you feel bad. Let's be really clear. Okay? So one of the things about owning your queen is nobody makes you do, feel, or think anything. If somebody's behavior elicits a response inside of you, you take responsibility for your response. If you feel bad, that is because you're falling into your own false feminine. It's not her fault. Okay? This is about taking personal responsibility 100%. This is when you really step into your queen, Nyla, when you go, wow, this is so familiar, this behavior with my mother-in-law, this hammering that she does, this haranguing energy. She constantly says, why not? She's constantly overstepping my boundaries. And what ends up happening is I feel angry. I feel heavy. I feel all this intense energy inside me. That's yours. That is not hers. Now, you also gave an example the other day when you did assert boundaries really cleanly and you actually had a more queen-like conversation with her. That's what you're going to have to do again and again and again. And it is an answer to a question that came up from Mina before, is what happens when people keep overstepping the boundaries, or you need to retrain people on your boundaries. Especially with the masculine, and clearly with your mother-in-law, you have to say them again and again and again. Okay? And then you know what? If someone oversteps them that many times, too many, as per my example with one of my best friends, you might need to push them a bit further away for a period. Okay, we've got a lot of questions happening. Maya, I feel how it feels in my body when I allow people to cross my boundaries. I feel sick. Yeah, it feels bad. And it's one thing I want to assert here is it's not good for either of you. Boundary creation is about clarity. It's about respect, self-respect for yourself and respect for others. It's a good thing. It actually creates a lot more clarity for everybody. And by the way, if somebody oversteps your boundaries too much, maybe they need to be pushed out of your life. Maybe they do. All right. Okay, so the last thing here today is how do you assert them? And I am watching and looking to see what you are asking, my loves. Good, good, good. How do you assert your boundaries? There's lots of ways, but the thing I've written here is the thing about self-knowledge, which is about knowing what your boundaries are, okay, is that once something has come out of the darkness and comes into your awareness, you won't let things slip again. So what happens at first is when we start to discover our boundaries and discover our desires and realize our values is, let's say that there's a bit of a fuzzy line there. It seems a bit fluid or fuzzy at first, but I can promise you, all it takes is for someone to continually step over that edge for you to become clearer and clearer as to what that edge is, okay? And that's a good thing. It clarifies your awareness and it clarifies your consciousness. So going back to that adage, you can't transform what you don't see. So it's okay. This is a process of learning as to what your true feminine is, as to what your queen is. When somebody oversteps your boundaries, you go, oops, oh, that doesn't feel good. That's not going to happen again, right? I'm going to write down, I'm going to journal that that is not what I want. And then remember, if you ever go into negative desire and all you can do is go, I don't want, I don't like, that doesn't work for me. What I encourage you to do is please look at the other side of the equation in yourself and go, okay, if that's not what I want, then what do I want? You have to find the positive desire. You have to find it, you have to assert it, you have to feel it, and you have to speak it, okay? All right. Now, one last thing I just wanted to say here with regard to the masculine, okay, and boundary setting, clarity, is with men, it really doesn't work when we say, that doesn't work, or I don't like that, or that doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't work. It emasculates them. It makes them feel weak. And we actually want our men to feel strong around us. We want them to be feeling strong in their masculine in order that they can provide for us the safety, the nourishment, and the caretaking and the holding that they can so beautifully provide for us, okay? So what does work for the masculine is if you are feeling in yourself something that isn't working, okay? That doesn't feel good to me. And let's just use the sexual space as an example. They're touching your body in a way that doesn't feel good to you. This is where you learn to feel that in yourself, but that's not what we speak to them. You feel what doesn't feel good and then you go, okay, immediately, what do I want instead? So let's say he's touching you on the leg in a way that doesn't feel good. And you go, what I really like is that he actually rubs my shoulders right now. Honey, what I would really love is that you touch my shoulders or you rub my shoulders right now. And what works really well for the masculine is what would make me happy is fill in the blank. What would make me really happy right now is. Or give him a positive orientation. Just say he's stroking your body or he's in fact stroking your clitoris in a way that's not the right speed for you, rather than going, that's too fast, or that doesn't feel good. Instead you go, can you slow down a bit, please? And then he slows down and you go, thank you. Trust me, the true masculine honors the feminine that knows what she wants. And as soon as you give him clarity, trust me, he will respond, as long as it doesn't come with any blaming or shaming energy, which is that of the false feminine. All right, my loves, so I need to catch up with what you're asking here. Gladisa, Candice, thank you so much for this. Deep emotions are coming up just listening to you. I grew up being violated in every way. Oh. I feel you, honey. It has taken me a lifetime to even know what a clear boundary is. Yes, and it feels like that is such an important learning for you in your Queen, Gladys. Exactly that. Exactly that. Beautiful. All right, loves. Do you have any other questions as we're wrapping up here today? The last thing I just wanted to say is you are thinking about if there's any other questions on here. Clearly there's a lot. And if other questions come up after the live stream, please continue. The thing I wanted to finish up on is you create and you have strong feminine boundaries in order that you can be strong on the inside, but soft on the outside. So when we create these clear and present boundaries in our life, it's actually in order that we can surrender more, that we can let go. And that's about clarity about yourself, back to your domain. The core and central sovereignty of your domain is your body and is your desire and is about your boundaries. This is where you learn to become the real queen, and that's when you can actually go out there and have a mission and a purpose, create communities, hold other people better, okay? Beautiful. Let me know if you have any questions or comments in these last few minutes here together. Lots and lots of questions here today, lots of interaction. I'm very grateful for that. What I'm going to suggest as we're wrapping up here today is that you journal a bit about this. Do the exercise where you put your hands and your fingers out in front of you and you draw the boundary line around you and you go, okay, what is inside that boundary and what is outside that boundary? What works for me is inside the boundary. What doesn't work for me is outside that boundary. What I desire is inside the boundary. What I don't want and don't desire is outside the boundary. My values, my core values is inside the boundary, are inside the boundary. And things that are not my values are outside of the boundary. Nyla's asking a question on the workplace. How do you set boundaries when your boss says he wants to do something even if you don't want to? I'm going to have to guess that your question has to do with a work-related situation and not that he's imposing upon your personal or sexual boundaries. I'm going to assume that in that question. So if it's a work-related boundary, you know, if you are employed by somebody else, to a certain extent, you are buying into the boundaries and the expectations of your job description, okay? So as you start to know yourself more and understand your own personal boundaries, what you do and don't want, what might start to become obvious is your work situation isn't really working for you. It doesn't feel good for you. Now, it may be an ad hoc thing, where occasionally it feels like your job description has been overstepped, or you're being asked to do something that really is outside of the purview of your job, okay? And if that is so, then just be clear, this is outside of my job description. You're going to have to ask somebody else to do this, right? I don't know what you do or what you're talking about, but I can tell you that, again, in a work situation, even though you have a job description, which basically is a boundary of its own, that when you start to assert your boundaries within a job environment, you will be respected more by the people that you work for and who work for you. Okay, I hope that answers your question, Nyla. For me, 25 years ago, I had a very strong realization that I was never going to work for anybody else again. Partly because those kind of things happened all of the time, and I knew that I was being channeled into things that I just didn't really want for myself, my life, my energy, the use of my time. So I made those clear boundaries 25 years ago. All right, my loves, I feel like we're wrapping up here today. Thank you so much for your presence and your attention. Thanks for sharing in the discussion about boundary setting. And let's continue this thread here. Let's continue to talk about it here. If you have more questions, if you have more realizations, please bring them up. It's a delight to do these sessions with you. And I will be away for the next 2 weeks. When I come back, we actually have one of our Feminine Power Hot Seat coaching calls. So I'm going to do a nice long call with you. If questions have come up in that 2 weeks, then bring them to the call. I will try to check in with you as much as I can when I'm away. I just have really, really lame internet connection where I'm going. And there will be phases when I'm in high states of meditation and connection where I'm not going to be able to communicate. But sending so much love, and I do have 9 videos planned for you. They're going to come out on the mornings of the events. I put them in the events section. So I am thinking of you, and I will be aspiring for us and for you and for our community a lot while we're away. So sending so much love. I'm so proud of you and seeing how people are evolving here and how you're supporting each other. It means a lot to me. So sending much love and goodbye for now, and we'll talk again very, very soon. Bye-bye for now.